Hey, welcome to the Pastor to Pioneer podcast. I'm here today with Felipe, and Felipe is a new friend of mine. We got connected recently, and he is from the Orlando area, originally from Colombia, which he'll tell you his story in just a minute here. Former pastor, just stepped away like 2 months ago, 3 months ago from the Prevailing Model Church and is just in the infancy steps of pioneering. And he's here today to share a story. So, Felipe, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, Britton. It's my pleasure, and everybody listening. I'm so excited to be here, especially because I've been following the podcast for around 6 months now, and just to be here, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
You're not the first Latin American guest. Our mutual friend Pocho and his wife were the first ones, but I think you're the second ones, and I think actually the first from South America though. So I think that's a title that you have
Wow,
achieved. So welcome for being the first guest from South America.
that's amazing. Double honor, double privilege.
I love it. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and just about how you briefly came to know the Lord and then what ended up leading you to the United States.
Yeah, I'm very. It's hard to me to make it short, but I'm gonna try. Yeah, so I I know the Lord from my youth, early youth. My parents became Christians when I was basically a baby, but then they stepped away because of some church issues and church hurt.
Hmm.
And around I believe I was 4 or 5, and then from 4 to around my 14th birthday, there was nothing like religious or Christian in my home. It was very secular.
Hmm.
Um, However, we I started having like this deep questions that you should not be having at the age of 14, right? Like usually somebody at 14 is like thinking in different stuff, and I was having these very deep existential questions and I wanted answers, so I started like my own journey, and that led me to a Christian church. um I think I was 15. They
What
shared
kind
the
of what kind of
gospel,
question like what kind of questions were you asking at that age?
like, why am I here? There has to be a purpose. Where do we come from? Is there a God? Who is he? What's wrong? What's right? Who gets to determine that? Like very, very existential to the core. I think we all have those questions in at a given stage of our lives, but not usually at 13, 14, I guess. Actually, I remember I used to share with some of my friends and cousins, like, "Hey, what do you think about this? Well, you're crazy, man. Why are you thinking about those things? Just let it go and enjoy life or whatever." And it's funny because I remember I had a very spiritual, I would say spiritual, use the word spiritual, even like mystical grandmother. And I thought, well, she's going to be the one that's going to give me the answers. And when I came to her and I said, "Hey, abuela, what do you think about this? Who can give me answers about these questions?" And she said something very interesting, because she used to be all over the place when it came to spirituality, like all over the place. New Age, lots of weird and mystical and mixed stuff. And she said, like, you should seek Jesus. He has the answers. And I was like,
Whoa.
what, Jesus? Okay. So that was interesting, and that's why I decided to go to a Christian church. So I asked my mom, and she said, "Yeah, I know there's a cousin of us that she goes to a Christian church." That's where I went, and that's where they preached the gospel to me, and it was beautiful. Like, great teacher. I'm still connected to that pastor. Uh, Great man, very loving. He's from Puerto Rico, but he was pastoring back in Colombia in late 90s, early 2000s. I was in my teen years, and it was a good place, small church, uh, very, 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 very centered in the Bible and the Gospels. Um, and then that church, I don't know, he had to go back to his country or something like that. Another pastor took over, and it was a disaster. So that's where
Oh,
it's like started, like, oh, so this is not the same. So I started to understand that there is a lot of components that have to do with the person in charge, if you will, uh, into how good or bad of an experience you get to have in a local church. And it was nasty. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in the church. That's what I used to say. Mostly the bad and the ugly, and
Hmm.
I still love the church, but I'm, I'm, I'm I'm just trying to. It's a long story, but basically, I met the Lord. That was my teen years. Um, Felt a calling. I don't even know if I felt a calling. Honestly, that's what they said. Like, you have a calling. The Lord is calling you, or you're special, or you know, you're gonna be a pastor. That kind of stuff that they start like putting in your heart ever since you start.
Oh yeah,
And I guess that's something that happens a lot in churches. Like, anybody that has potential, oh, you're a pastor. Like that's
that's the one route.
that's like
Yep,
the
you're gonna be a
roadmap.
pastor.
That's a route. So I was like, nah, I don't want to be a pastor. I love Jesus, but I don't want to be a pastor. I never thought about being a pastor, becoming a pastor. That was not never in my heart. I went to business school. I studied industrial design. Then I did marketing. Got my master's in marketing. Worked for General Motors for the better part of 10 years, like nine and a half years. And one day, I remember. Uh, I say one day like it's what was one day, but it was like something started shifting and happening in my heart where suddenly it stopped being a joy for me to go to work. Like, I've always thought that you don't work for food. I'm not that kind of person. I will never. Thank God I've never had to really actually work for food, and I get to work with what I love and enjoy and I'm passionate about. And I was passionate about cars and the automotive industry and dealerships and selling cars and all that stuff until I wasn't. And I remember my Mondays were miserable. I really was. I don't know why I felt miserable. Something was happening inside of me and I didn't know what it was. And I went to my pastor and I said, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And he said, oh, the Lord is calling you to full time ministry. That's all he said. And I was like, okay. So I suppose if I do that, this is gonna go away, right? Like, I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing now. I'm gonna go full time in a church, and it's gonna be paradise for me. It's gonna be like, wow, I'm gonna be a real super pumped up every single day of my life. That's what I thought. That was my expectation. We did that. We transitioned out of my GM corporate position. I had a great job. I was making good money. Probably I was what, like 28, 30, probably. I'm not gonna say it was a mistake because at the end of the day, I am where I am, and it's brought me all the way here. And that's not the way I think. Like, oh, it was a mistake. But if I were to do it again, I'd probably do it differently.
Hmm.
And that's an area where I try to be very careful when I advise young men into these important career shifts, because
Mm.
this idea of full-time ministry versus secular job being one more spiritual than the other, that's very
Yeah.
dangerous. Very
Yes.
dangerous. I hope I would have had somebody tell me like, hey, you can serve the Lord where you are, and
Yeah.
maybe this has nothing to do with you having to change jobs. Maybe you have to ask for seeker understanding of what's going on in your soul, and there are some things that might not necessarily be related with the fact that it's cars versus pastoring. Probably it's something else. And I'm pretty sure it was something else, Britain, because then I did the move, and guess what? 2 years later, I was frustrated. I was hating my job at the church. Same thing. I was still dealing with my soul issues. There were a lot of things in my life that weren't right.
Wow.
Um, Plus, I got to see how the sausage is made. Because once once you are in the church, like in that level, you get to see so many things that regular people never see about how ministry happens, how church happens, how they make all the magic happen on Sundays. I'm sorry if I offend somebody with what I'm saying, but
I think it's
it is
true.
what it is.
It's true. Yeah.
uh,
Wow.
so I
So you
decided
were
to
working.
quit that job as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you were
go
working
ahead.
at the church. What was your role at the church?
It was like a combined job. I was both executive pastor. That was not the name because that didn't exist back then. This was like 2013, and nobody that wasn't a thing. Nobody said that, like executive pastors, at least in Colombia, that didn't exist. It was like the church administrator or something like that. But it was an executive pastor, and I had a preaching role as well. So I was the like the backup for the main pastor or the lead pastor whenever he was not in Bogota, whenever he had to travel or anything like that. I was that like that man that gets to preach once a month or sometimes twice a month or sometimes every other month, whatever. So I used to preach a lot, well, considering that usually that's a one-man job in every church and it's sacred and no, they don't allow anybody else to touch the microphone. Well, I got to do it eventually. And then the executive part of the church, because I came from this business background, GM 9 years, super corporate company, a corporation, lots of protocols, processes, excellence, and I got to bring a lot of that into the church, which at the time I thought it was awesome to give structure to the church, and I had a different idea of what the church is, so I was very into the corporate mindset of the church. Like the church has to have its process, protocols, everything has to be like a Swiss watch, like everything has to be perfect. And I was the guy doing that, like marketing in the church, um, CRM in the church, uh, branding in the church, and all the things that I've learned through the years. I was bringing that into the church, which that's where it's uh, paradoxical, I'd say, because now that's what I don't want to see in the church nowadays. It's like I don't want to know. Please don't. So yeah.
Uh, so okay, you quit that church because you're like, I see how the sausage is made. I can't do this anymore. What happened when you quit that church?
Everything went south very, very, very quickly, especially when it came to relationships. And it was, I think it was 8 years in that church. My second son, I have two sons. I have a daughter and a son. Rebecca, she's 25. Benjamin, or Benjamin, he's 18. And Benjamin was born in that church. Like he was born in 2007, and my wife was pregnant when we got there, and then he was born in that church, and we were in that church at least for 8 years. Everybody in that church, like it was our life, you know how it works. Like typically, when you're in churches and into that level of commitment, it's like a bubble. So everything's in the church. All your friends are in the church. Everybody's from church. You don't have friends outside of the church. Your family is excluded unless they are part of the church. So that was our life. That church was our life, literally. Like everybody there, we made friends. They came to our house. They stayed in our home. Their kids stayed at our home. Our kids stayed at theirs. And suddenly, as soon as I left, um, presidential order from the president pastor, and nobody should speak to us.
My
We are
word.
rebels. If they talk to us, they're gonna be cursed because we are cursed, and it's diabolic or demonic or whatever, and all kinds of nonsense and witchcraft, I'd say, because it makes no sense at the end of
Unbelievable.
the day. It was horrible. It was horrible. So that was a very tough experience. We had never been through what usually people call like church hurt in that sense, like actually being hurt by the church, and by because at the end of the day, for me, it was very, very practical. Like I was working at GM, making good money. I had a great career. I went to the church 2.5 years. All things that I wasn't okay with, and I was very practical. I was like, hey, this is not what I thought. I wanted it to do ministry. I wanted it to do the work of ministry. I wanted it to pastor people. I wanted it to make disciples. I wanted it to do what at the end of the day we are called to do. That was my heart, and I ended up just like doing all the the corporate side of the church all the time, and I'm being underpaid, super toxic environment. It was crazy. So at the end of the day, I said, like, I don't want to be here. I spoke to the pastor. I told him, I think I'm done. I love you guys, but I can no longer be here. Initially, I thought I was going to stay in the church, like quit my job, go back to whatever secular job I could find, and be still a member of the church. But that didn't work out. And then when I decided, you know what, I think it's time for me to look for a church elsewhere. That's where they actually turned against me and turned everybody against me. It was a big church. I wouldn't say a mega church, but at least 1,500 people probably.
Wow, that's
So
large.
it's a large church, and it's crazy,
So
crazy. Lost all my friends. Lost, like, it was crazy, crazy, crazy.
it's got to be so hard. You gave 8 years of your life. These people who supposedly were your friends, and now all of a sudden, in an instant, that's all gone
All gone.
and excommunicated, all because you didn't belong to that particular church. You were
Exactly. It's
choosing
like,
to step
I
out.
don't agree with some things of your church, so now you are against us. Like, you're not for us, you're against us, and it was super hard, even to the point that I ended up just like rejecting the church, rejecting my faith. I wouldn't say my faith, but at least rejecting the calling. And it did hurt my faith in a sense, because at the end of the day, even though we see community differently today, I think we all need community, right? Like, you
Amen.
cannot be a disciple without community, without people around you, like in the same boat. And I just isolated myself, and went back to work, regular job. I found a job at a marketing company, started working. It was good again for me, like financially, and started growing. But it was like, I believe, 2 year period where I was completely away from church, from ministry, from even people used to call me and they were like, "Hey, pastor," and I was like, "Hey, first of all, I'm not a pastor. You know, pastors are this, that." I had a lot of hurt, so it
Mm,
was not good. It was not a good moment. I really resented what happened. It really hurt me. It really got me thinking. I couldn't believe how they could preach the name of Jesus but still treat people that way. So it was super hard for me. It took me a while to heal and to realize that I needed to go back, come back to church, or to to the Lord, through a local church, and then started all over again. Probably 2 years later, or 2.5 years later,
no.
went back
Still
to a
still
church.
still in
Same
Colombia
story.
at this point? Still at Colombia. You went back to the church, gave another try, worked for the church, and had the
Yeah,
same
I
thing
did.
happen.
I switched cities. I'm from Bogota, Colombia, which is like the capital and the largest city in Colombia. And even though it's a huge city, 10 million people, the church was concentrated in the northern part of the city. So I got to see a lot of people, like in malls or in the supermarket or even in the street, and they would switch lanes or switch. They were walking and they would move just to avoid me. So it was so hard that I said I need to leave. So I moved to another city. So I was in another city actually. It's called Barranquilla, which is a city in the coastal Caribbean part of Colombia. And there we found a local church eventually and started going back to that church. And I think it was a time of healing. And through that church, I got connected to a pastor in Miami.
Hmm.
And he started like some kind of mentorship for me. He started mentoring me. This was 2015 probably. I remember we used Skype. We didn't
Yeah.
have Zoom, so it was through Skype. I used to have a Skype call every week. It was good, at least to heal, to forgive, to let go, to understand that the church is not perfect, that there are bad things in the church, and everything that we all know. And I remember I had to go back to Bogota because I got a job opportunity with a company from the IT, the technology industry, and actually a company from Los Angeles, and they wanted me back in Bogota. So I went back to Bogota, And I remember this pastor told me, "Hey, why don't you go back to a church? Like, look for a church in Bogota, and go back with your family." And I was like, "No, I don't think I'm ready for that." And he suggested that we should start some kind of prayer meeting or small group or something at home. um, and I thought, well, that could work, but I don't want to be the one preaching, because I know that there's still a lot of hurt in my heart, and I wanted it to be responsible with the fact that at the end of the day, the Bible says that uh, from the abundance of your heart your mouth speaks.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna be preaching and teaching and I'm still hurting, I don't want to do that. So I spoke to a pastor friend of mine. He had a local church in Bogota. He was pastoring his church full time. And I asked him if he would be willing to come on Friday nights and lead a small group with my family and some friends. That's what I asked him. And he said yes. He said, yeah, of course, I would do that. Good friend, very nice guy. And he started doing that for around 3 months. Started growing, 5 people, next week six, next week seven, and you know how it goes, no? So
Yeah.
eventually we had, I don't know, 45 people in my small apartment in Bogota. I remember I used to come every single day. I came late because I had this job, and every single Friday I came and everybody was already home. They hadn't started yet because we had some snacks and stuff and coffee, but I used to come, everybody was home, and hey, hi everybody, and when we start once I got there, it was like, okay, now we can start. So when we started the meeting, since I was hosting, it was my house, I always said the same thing. I said, hey, welcome to my home. This is not a church. I am not a pastor, and I am not your pastor, and not do not pretend to be your pastor either. um, there's Aníbal. He's our pastor. He's a pastor. I didn't say he's our pastor. He's a pastor. He has a church. The name of the church is so and so. If you're looking for a church, I suggest you go to his church. But we're gonna keep doing this on Fridays. We just love the Bible. We want to study the Bible and share a meal. Um, and I kept doing that for 3 months. It kept growing. And one day he invited me to lunch, and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I don't know if you've noticed what's happening in your house, but people keep coming, and they're not coming for me. They're coming for you. Because if they came for me, they would be in my church. And I have never seen one of them in my church. Not one of them. Like, it's not like one came and never came back. None of them have come to my church, but they keep coming to your house, and they bring more people. So I think that's a clear indicator that they're here for you and you are their pastor. So I'm gonna be here for, I don't know, probably he said 3 more weeks or something like that, and I'm leaving. And you gotta figure out what you're gonna do." And that was a moment of truth for me, Britton, because I didn't want that. I wanted my faith back, I wanted my community back, but I didn't want ministry. Definitely, I didn't want ministry. So I was very, very anxious. I didn't know what to do. I spoke to my wife, and I spoke to my parents. I remember, even to my daughter. My son was very, very small back then. And I decided to call the guy from Miami, the one that was mentoring me before. And he said, "Why don't you come? Why don't you come to Miami for a week? We can spend some time together, pray, see if the Lord says anything about it." And I did that. I took vacation. I remember I asked for vacation at my job, and we went with my wife for a week to Miami. We flew. And through some weird prophetic, I am very careful with the prophetic nowadays, because that could be a conversation for another day. I'm not gonna go into that, because then that's a rabbit hole that you don't want to make me go through that rabbit hole right now.
Now I'm really interested. We'll have to do that again
Yeah,
another time.
yeah, but it was like this very prophetic word that I received that for me was confirmation,
Mm.
that I needed to go back home and start a church, basically. So I decided to do that. I came back home and I said, like, "Hey, remember that every single time I say welcome to my home, this is not a church, I am not a pastor. Well, guess what? looks like this is a church and I'm your pastor. So it was interesting. Everybody was super excited. We knew that, thank God you acknowledge it. And that started what we called back then Ecclesia Viva. So
Mm,
ecclesia, like the Greek word for iglesia, for
yep.
church. It's easier in Spanish because ecclesia and iglesia, they sound alike in English. I once studied that, nerdy, and learned that the church comes from Kirche, which is a German word, but that's a different conversation. And so ecclesia viva. Viva is like a living church, basically,
Okay.
live church, and all under the idea that the church is not a building, the church is not an organization, the church is not an institution, the church is a group of people, a community, a community of believers that love Jesus and love each other. Basically, that was our whole idea, more organic than organizational. And that was my train of thought. That was my heart. That was the vision. That was the DNA. That's how we started. Unfortunately, Britain, I believe many churches start that way, but they don't stay that way.
Yes.
And that was our case as well. So it started growing from our home. I remember we rented the apartment next door for the kids. So we still were able to stay in my house, like in my apartment for a while. And then we had the kids in the other apartment. And then eventually that was too many people. So we moved to another church building that they used to allow us to use that in Sundays afternoons. And then from there we got our own place, and then you know how it rolls.
Yes. Every time. That's what
Every
happens.
time, every time, every time, man. It's like a force. It's something that you cannot. I'm not gonna say you cannot control, because now I'm trying to, and I believe that we can. But at least that's how it was. That's
Yeah,
that's why
absolutely.
what we learned. That's what they taught us. That's what everybody did. So that is what being successful was. Like, that was a successful church. Um, more wider walls, more chairs, right?
That's right. That's right.
And one man show, basically. I was the guy doing everything, um, everything. You name it, I was doing it, everything. And there was a lot of pride. Like, I do everything. I have I wear multiple hats. I do everything. Um, Eventually, I got laid off because, of course, they noticed that I was putting a lot of effort and time into the church, and I got laid off. We used to be super active in social media as a platform. I still am. I've always been, but back then, like, that was a key platform for us to grow the church. I guess they saw that and they knew I was super invested into that. And at the end of the day, probably they thought, we don't want a guy that's so religious or whatever. I don't know. That's me just trying to understand why I got laid off. But I did, and then that was it, man. That was full time ministry for me, without looking for it. Like, for the first time, actually doing like my own church, and trying to. We tried to do things differently, and we had a different heart, different DNA, honestly. But at the end of the day, there are some structures that if you go down that road, no matter how beautiful your vision statement is, it's always gonna be end like the same, the
Yeah.
same deal,
Yeah.
same story. uh and 2018, this was like 3 years in to the church plant. Probably 350 people.
Wow.
We had a very, very strong startup growth, from 0 to 350 in 3 years. I almost I crashed. Like, it was I almost destroy my family, my marriage, everything,
Yep. Yep.
everything.
Is it just
Burnout.
because you were going all in on the church, trying to do everything, trying to make it happen, trying to be
Yep,
successful at the church?
yep. Plus some other things, like, you know, I have a lot of responsibility in that. It's not like I have, you poor me, no, it's me. I'm a workaholic. I've always been. So I was a workaholic at GM. I was a workaholic doing church. I've always been a workaholic. Now I have that understanding, and I just am very careful. Um, all in, very passionate, goal oriented person. Um, I'm skillful with lots of things. I can do marketing. I can do branding. I can preach. I can counsel. So I was doing everything nonstop, and at the same time, super like I think churches focus too much on charisma and very little in fruit, in character, right? So I think we were one of those churches. Like everything was super focused in charisma, like in the preaching, and um, without knowing probably the gifts of the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and very few focus in character and um, the fruit of the
Mm,
spirit.
mm,
And I think I neglected things in my soul
mm,
at a soul level that needed to be addressed.
mm-hmm.
And it's easy to put that aside because you're being successful.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
It- It's
Been
like
there.
you end up thinking that, hey, if I'm being successful, it's because everything's okay. Probably I don't need to work on this. The Lord knows, or whatever. It almost cost me my marriage, my life, my kids, everything. Very
Wow.
hard.
Wow.
Very hard. I crashed, and I had to take a 6 months sabbatical from
Mm,
ministry. That was 2018, and that's where I came to Miami again, because I always thought, like, hey, this is where it all started somehow. So I came back to Miami, to this church pastor's house, and spent some time with him. He was like a mentor for me. Nice guy. And came back, started doing things differently. So delegating more, forming leaders, preachers. So I started in 2018. I started a school of preachers. I remember I started that. So I started teaching others how to preach, because I didn't want to be the only one doing that.
mm,
I thought, we have a 350 people church, and I'm the only one able to preach. That's not right. So started sharing the stage with other people, and we did things better in that second wave, I'd say. uh, we were no longer 350, because some people just couldn't understand how it happened, how I crashed, how I was no longer going to be there for a while. So probably we were 200 when I came back. And then it was already starting, like, to gain traction again when the pandemic hit. And that was crazy, because the pandemic in Latin America, at least in Colombia, but as far as I'm concerned, in Latin America as a whole, churches were not able to gather, like, for 6 or 7 months. In Colombia, it was like 7 months. We basically had to give back our warehouse where we were meeting, and just pay a penalty, and no more, because it wasn't possible to keep paying rent without having meetings. So we started doing everything online. And while doing that, this pastor friend from Miami, he invited me to come to his church and work with him as an executive pastor, and preaching pastor again, like history
okay.
repeating.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, why not? This is a different guy. I've known him. They seem to be different. Uh, there's no there's no church for me here in Colombia. I can do everything online. We were doing everything online. Why not? I can go, and then I can do things remotely from Miami, and then I'll have a job. I'll be able to provide, and I've always loved this country. We decided to come. Well, of course, we prayed, and we thought that the Lord was, you know, blessing that decision. But at the end of the day, it was very practical as well.
Hmm.
And we came in November 2020, sorry, no, November 2020. And um, 18 months it lasted. Worst experience of my life, Britain. The
Oh,
worst
you've
experience.
had a lot of bad experiences to say that was the
Yeah,
worst one.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
no.
This was the worst one. This was the worst one. Very hard, very abusive relationship, very manipulative person, controlling, uh, pathological liar. Uh, I don't know, man. It's like I remember I used to have counseling with couples, and couple of times I remember either of them, whether it be the man or the woman, they would say like, when we were engaged, everything was beautiful, and as soon as we got married, it's like, who did I marry with? Like, who's this
Yeah.
person? You know,
That's what it felt like for you.
that's how it felt. Because I had been in a relationship with this guy for
That's a lot of
a
years,
lot of
right?
time. Yeah, a lot of, I don't remember, probably 7 8 years, and working with him, for him, within the same local organization. I understood. I read a book. I don't know if I have it here. No, I have it back there in my library. I read a book like 6 months ago, about like narcissism in the
Yeah.
church,
Mhm.
spiritual abuse, and I understood many things. And now I can truly say this guy is a narcissist, and he was very abusive, um, very nasty, very nasty.
Was it harder for your family because now you're experiencing this, but you're not even in your home country? Was it harder being in the States? Was it not? Did that
Yeah.
have any impact on it?
So yes and no, and I'm gonna tell you why. When we went through the first traumatic experience of the don't talk to them, they're
Mhm.
cursed, all that. I wasn't very wise. I was so young back then, and I never filtered anything and did not protect my wife and my kids. Like, everything went through me, and I think that hurt them a lot. And I'm grateful that my kids love the Lord and love the church, because they shouldn't. I mean, honestly, they shouldn't, man.
Kidding. No kidding.
Um, so the second time, even though it was tougher and we were not in our country, I tried the best I could to protect them from that. Like, I
Mm,
tried to keep every conversation with my wife, tried not to let my kids
mhm.
know what was happening. They are bigger now, so very smart. Of course, they know everything, but sometimes we are not wise as parents, and we just ventilate everything and let them hear everything. So I think I was wiser there, but it did definitely hurt me a lot. And I
Yeah.
started doubting, like, I should never have left Colombia. Why am I here, Lord? Why? So I resented these people. I resented the Lord. I was all over the place. um I am very sensitive in my emotions, um somehow melancholic, somebody would say, like, I really think, overthink, over process. So those kind of experiences really hurt me, like, they really get me. So I after that, I was about to go back to Colombia, but my daughter, she got engaged with a guy from the United States,
Mm,
Floridian, born and raised Orlando, Florida. And she said she was gonna get married. So then my wife said, "Well, she's gonna get married. We're not gonna go back to Colombia because we
that's
don't want to
right.
divide the family." And I was like, "Oh heck!" So what am I gonna do? Like, um, I want to go back home because there's nothing for me here, and at least I thought that there was nothing for me here. And but then my wife wants to be here, so we just try to make it happen. And gladfully, like, thank God, we were able to get like our the visas and everything we needed to stay here, to remain in the country legally, because that for me was critical. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna stay. Some people do. Well, nowadays they don't, but they used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I said, if you want me here, Lord, you have to provide like a path for me to stay, and it happened. We were able to stay here, and we moved from Miami to Orlando, and we did the only thing we knew to be church or ministry. We came to Orlando and we said, we're going to start a church. So we opened our home and we started inviting people. People started coming. And again, same story. Church started growing. Uh, One family, two families, three families, six families. 4 months in, we need a hotel room or something. Moved to a hotel room. This was 2022. And crazy, man, it's crazy. And then we already had like a full church in the hotel, and I realized that it was too much. It had been too much hurt for me, and
Mm.
I needed to stop. So um I like, services were great, nobody noticed it, but my Monday through Saturday, I was going through a very hard, like, I think Saint John of the Cross calls it the dark night of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was going through,
Wow.
honestly. So I
Wow.
started reading a lot and trying to understand what was happening, and I thought, if this, I went through abuse. This was traumatic, and I cannot keep going. Like, you cannot just keep going with all that hurt. Well, some people do. I can't. So I decided to stop and take a sabbatical. That's been like, if you now hear my story, it's been like it repeats itself. And that's where we moved to California, Northern California, Redding, California.
Hmm.
That's a story for a different day, different podcast, because that has to do with the whole mystical, supernatural, crazy, weird
Uh-huh.
stuff we encountered.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and but but at the end of the day, I was able to heal.
Praise God.
um Redding is a beautiful city. North Cali is beautiful.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know if there's a better place to go into nature and find God, you know what I mean? Like, snow-capped mountains, volcanoes, the forest, the river. I mean, it's as good as it gets.
Wow.
And God had supernaturally provided for that. Like, that full year, I was able to just sit
Wow.
down and heal. And after doing that, we knew we had to come back to Florida. My son-in-law, he's from Florida. There was nothing for us upstate, like in California. And we came to Orlando again. And a church, a friend of mine, he offered me a job as a campus pastor for his church. They were starting. A new campus here in Orlando, and he learned that I was coming back from California. He called me. He said, "Hey, why don't you come and work for us?" And I was reluctant at first, because when you've been like doing this cycle once and again, like, it's like, either I'm wrong and there's something broken in me, which that's definitely what I was considering, like I'm the problem,
Mm. Mm.
or um, this is not for me. But it has to be me, because no matter where I'm at, it's always the same. So I initially said no, and he insisted. He traveled. We had lunch. We spent, like, I believe, a weekend together. Then we started having Zoom meetings, and he started sharing his vision. And you know how it goes. This is our vision. This is our DNA. These are our values. This is the way we do our church culture. And we have a saying in Colombia in Spanish is "El papel aguanta todo," which means paper, like,
It all works out on
everything,
paper.
all works out. Yeah, everything in paper is perfect, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically, that to say that usually when you go through those PowerPoint presentations and like, well, everything is beautiful, but at the end of the day, there is a huge disconnection between the paper and the reality, right? The
For
culture.
sure. For
And
sure.
that's everywhere. I think that's a problem in any organization, any home. So we went through a very, very, very strict process of going through um, what you believe, the way you see church, what are your values, what is a church for you. And uh, I forgot to mention something very important, Britton. During my sabbatical in California, I read a book that started to change everything for me. I probably you've read this book. It's called Letters to the Church, the Francis
Yeah.
Chan book.
Yeah.
And I've always loved Francis. Like I believe I've seen him ever since he was in Simi Valley in 27 or 2007 or something like that. And I've seen his whole journey, and I've always thought it's very interesting to read him. Like he always messes with you. When you read a book from Francis, get ready because something happens. Whether it's
Always.
what crazy love or something like
Yeah.
that, it's always gonna mess with you. So I knew this was gonna be like okay, embrace for impact or something like that. And when I read Letters to the Church, that did something in me, and it's so for the first time in my life I started thinking about ecclesiology. I had never thought about ecclesiology. I didn't even know that was a thing, honestly. I just thought that church was what I knew at 15 and kept happening once and again. That I thought that was church. That's the sausage. That's it. There's nothing else. And for the first time, I started like thinking, oh, there can be other ways, right? And I don't understand how we as Christians read the Bible, read the book of Acts, and can be part of those mega corporations and still be okay with that. I don't understand. It's like, how? But it happens. So when I came back, I needed the job. I knew who they were, and they're super nice people, and I love them, and I'm still in relationship with them. It's a healthy church. Like at least I have never seen any. It's a church that it's been like for 20 years or so, and they've got no scandals. Like he's a man of integrity.
Mm.
They're the real deal. Like they love the Lord, and they love Jesus, and they love like they love people.
Mm.
So I decided to go for it. Why not? So I started doing the campus pastor thing, and we started doing that in June 2024.
Mm.
By June 2025, this past year, one whole year, I said, okay, it's been a year and I'm not enjoying this. And it's not because this time, it's not because I had a traumatic experience. This time, it's not because they're abusive. This time, it's not nothing like that. Honestly, I think it's just the way they do church.
Mm-hmm.
So this time it was different because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't I somehow inside of me I knew God was pointing me towards something different or calling me towards something different, or I desperately needed
Wow.
something different. And that's where I started coming across, I believe this was February. I started struggling February last year, already 6 7 months in the job. I started struggling, and I started trying to read more things about different ecclesiology. So I started studying some of those organic church, micro church movements that we
Mm-hmm.
have here in the United States, say underground church or Kansas underground, or I read the book Neil Cole, I believe it's Organic Church.
Yep. Great one.
Started reading Alan Hirsch. Started going deeper into that world, and I guess the algorithm somehow starts knowing what you like and what you read. And then I started seeing the lampstand and pastor to pioneer posts, and I was like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Who are these people?" And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think I feel the form, right?
Yeah. 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 You and I got on a
Probably,
call. That was like
yeah.
6 months ago, right? We got on a call like 6 months ago.
It had to be April or May,
It was
probably.
even that for longer. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it
Already.
had to
That's been
be
that long.
probably
Okay.
May or June. Let's say May or
Okay.
June,
Okay.
probably. And ever since I started going down that road, I've been all over the place, uh, both emotionally, meant like rationally. It's a tough journey. Like
Mm-hmm.
pioneer is a it could be a glamorous word, but there's nothing glamorous about pioneering, right?
True.
Like,
It's
oh, we
true.
are the pioneers, and it sounds
Yeah.
like it's glamorous. No, man, that's probably you don't want to be a pioneer because that road is messy. You're gonna encounter a lot of uncertainty and doubt, and people are gonna look at you like you're crazy or you're weird or you're wrong, right? So, um, I,
Connected you with Pocho, right? Like he and his wife,
yes,
they walked with you and your wife, if I remember right.
yes. So I started doing the paradigm shift process probably 1 month after we had that first conversation with Pocho and Ale, and probably we did that for 6 sessions, I believe, and we never did that. We never finished, and the reason why is because I started transitioning out of the church. So in the midst of that whole struggle and realization that, well, probably there is something wrong in me, but it's just that I'm not compatible with this way of doing church.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily that they are wrong. It's just that that's not for me right now, and that's not what I want to do, and that's not the way I see church happening in the Bible and
And
everything
there's
that
another way. Now you know there's another way to do it.
now
That
now
helps
I know
too.
there's another way, and there's more people. It's not just me, the wacko crazy guy that's trying to invent the wheel. It's like there's actually a lot of people that have been going through this path. And it's not new because when you look at those movements, some of them are 20, 25 years old. So it's not like it's something like it's not new. I'm saying like this wave, and it's not new because if you read the Bible, it actually started that way. So it's I decided to quit my job at the church.
Mm,
That was a big decision because
huge.
that's where 100% of my provision was coming from. 100%.
Wow.
And not only my provision, probably my identity as well, my self worth as a person, and because we all do that, like
Yeah.
we, we
Oh yeah.
build we build this life around who we are and our ministry, and you know um but I made the call. I called the pastor of the church, good friend of mine, explained to him this is what's happening. I want to be very honest, and he understood, and he was super graceful. I was prepared for cursing, and that's what we've experienced in the past.
That's
So I
right. That's
was
been your
ready
experience every time. So why not?
every
Why would
time.
this be different? Yeah.
And to my surprise, it was very graceful, very loving transition. They supported us all the way. They were very interested in knowing what we were gonna do, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I just knew I didn't want to keep doing that. I don't want to be the pastor of a local church. That's not what I want to do. I want to make disciples. I want to see the kingdom advance. I want to see. I want to do the things that we read in the Bible, and not so much produce a Sunday service or a Sunday experience or talk about from 1 to 10 how was our worship or how was our kids ministry, or that's the conversations that we had for years now. Like, how was the experience, how was the brand, the presentation, how, like, we're running a corporation basically. I was exhausted. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I just knew I wanted to make disciples, and I the only thing that I prayed is, Lord, please provide, provide for my family because we need provision. And I've been connected ever since 2022 with a church planting organization that's based here in Central Florida. Very traditional, like they're part of the Reformed uh, wing of the church. Since I had some of those crazy experiences in the hyper charismatic world. I was super okay with the reformed world, so that's good. I want this. So I applied to see if they would support me in a church planting journey to start something new.
Hmm.
And to my surprise, when I filled the form and I explained the way I see church and my struggles and my vision and what I think church should look like, very much like uh, any micro church or home church or organic church person would put it, with the difference that we all have, and the, even without the clarity that I have today, that I did that in September, they accepted me and they said, okay, we're going to support you. And that came with a stipend as well. So I was like, oh, yeah, Lord, you're good. Praise the Lord. So I started doing that after I transitioned out of the church. I started doing that on November last year. Doing what? Doing church in my house with friends. So remember, you connected me with Pocho and Ali,
Mm-hmm.
and also with Abraham,
Abraham. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Abraham is also here in. He actually lives, I don't know, 25 minutes from my house, and I went to one of his Sunday home church services or meetings, and I was surprised. Like, I got there, no liturgy, no nothing, nothing crazy, just like friends sharing a meal, reading the Bible together, no preaching. I was like, what? There's no preaching. I mean, like that was the craziest for me. Like, they read the Bible and they started, like, everybody, anybody wants to share whatever thought or the Spirit shows them. And I was, oh, this is dangerous, man. That's what I thought back then. And no, it was beautiful. And when I saw the kids, I was waiting for the kids can go out and play or whatever. Kids stay there 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, with their Bible, with their pen in their hands, taking notes, participating in the conversation. I was like, this is different. This is unusual. So I really loved that, and I was very, very inspired by what I saw that day. Very grateful for Abraham to open his house and allow me to be there. And I was challenged as well, because I said, it can be done. It can be done. um, and I started doing something similar as what I saw at Abraham's. Like, okay, let's come together, let's share a meal. uh, no, somebody plays an instrument. Can somebody play a guitar? No. Okay, so no worship today. No worries. Yes, okay, let me bring the guitar. You want to play a couple of songs, lead us. Beautiful, everybody singing, nothing fancy. um, why don't we pray for each other, and anybody has a need, or very organic, actually. And
Mm,
that's what we've been doing for 2.5 months now.
wow,
Every Sunday is
wow.
different, in a sense, because there's no agenda, there's no specific program, there's no preparation from the, well, you know what I mean. Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of preparation in my heart for that meeting. I do spend a lot of time in the Word, because we are going through the Book of Acts. So we started with verse by verse, and we are in Acts 4 now, and it's been 2 months, 2 months and a half, and we are only in Acts, entering Acts 4, which is crazy. How deep you can go by just reading the Bible and wrestling with it and having conversations around it. My goal, my heart, my desire would be to see our church grow through other homes being opened and sending people to those homes. Not growing as I've always done all my life. Because this story, I know it, and we already packed here. I mean, the last Sunday of December, the last Sunday that it was not in the like in the holidays, full house. Like, back then, I would have said, okay, we need to go to a hotel or something. So, well, I was mentioning earlier that we
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
because a friend of mine, he there are a Presbyterian church here connected to the planting network that I'm being. That they're accompanying me in the process. So there is this Brazilian guy. He's very nice, and he said, "I saw the pictures. There's a lot of people in your house. If you ever need a room, a bigger room, you can use ours. You don't have to pay us. And they have a beautiful mid-century church, one of those old Presbyterian church with the 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 the,
Stained
the, the
glass.
The glass in beautiful and very romantic, and I was like, oh, I love this, man. So I decided, okay, families, we're gonna have church in this address. It's a church by the lake. It's gonna be beautiful. First Sunday, everybody was pumped. Oh, this is a beautiful place. Second Sunday, I was doing everything. Everybody was sitting down and expecting me to do everything. Third Sunday, it already felt like a traditional Sunday service. My wife and I doing everything. People just coming, sit down, and expecting us to serve them and produce a service for them. Third Sunday, I said, "No, we're going back home. This is not what I sang for. No way."
Isn't it crazy? That happened so fast. 3 weeks. three
Three
weeks. And
weeks.
it was just back
That's
to
all
what
it
it would
takes.
normally is.
That's all it takes. It's like a force. And the crazy thing is that I guess if we were actually doing the work of ministry, probably we would be reaching the people that have no church experience at all,
Hmm.
but we're not yet. So everybody that's coming have some kind of church experience, and even if they have church hurt or some kind of frustration against the church, even so, they still expect church to look somehow like it used to look back
That's
where
right.
they came from.
That's right.
We all do. It's like it's the comfortable area, the comfortable zone, like it's we are all comfortable with that, even though we don't like it. I don't know why. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. So even if you do something that looks remotely like that, it's not just that they go back into their thinking about everything the way the church is supposed to be, right? Like, oh, now
Yeah,
you just do everything for us. Now I just sit and receive. And it's so instinctual because it's so
yeah,
deeply ingrained in us. You are
yeah,
spot on.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about you said even before we hit record, you were intentionally, you're getting a stipend, but you also intentionally got a job to
Yes,
model for people. Tell me a little bit about that, why you decided to get a job in the marketplace as well.
yes. Well, um, this stipend is good for 6 months. Like I could live for 6 months from that stipend. Um, so I thought, okay, 6 months, and then what? Then if I don't have the stipend, I'm gonna be in a financial need. And if I get to a point where I need money, then that's gonna give me another reason to go back to what I know: organizing the church, start raising funds, making people pay their tithes and offerings, and paying a salary, right? I know how to do that. I've done it before. I didn't want to put myself in a position where anything was motivated by the need of provision or money. And I'm very honest. I don't know who listens to this. I don't care in the sense that there's nothing to hide. Everybody in ministry knows that there are points where you do things for the wrong motives. Either it's money, provision, paying for a building, whatever. But your deep motivation is we need resources, we need money, and I didn't want to be in that position. So I said, okay, this is not a good place to be. 6 months and 6 months go like this, and then what? And what they expect in the church planting organization at the end of the day, and I get it, it is how it is, that's how it works, is we help you 6 months, but those 6 months you use them to fundraise with other organizations, get your people going, and then you have enough traction to be on your own. Some work, some don't. The crazy thing is that I know how to make it work. I've
Hmm.
done it before. So I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to do that again, Britton. I don't want to be in a position
Me
where
neither.
where money is a motive for ministry or for church or for whatever we do. So I said to my wife, "Hey, I need to find a job. Like, I'm a capable guy. I worked for General Motors for 10 years. I worked for IT companies. I worked for marketing companies. I know how to work. I'm not a lazy guy. I'm rusty because you get rusty in the
Yeah.
Christian bubble and you forget so many things, and the real world is tough and it's hard, but I can do it." So I started looking for a job in ministry organizations. because that's what I thought. Well, maybe if I look for jobs in ministry organizations, like Wycliffe or Pioneer or this kind of crew, or that's where I started looking for a job. Did a couple of interviews. Uh, Nothing happened. Started looking for more opportunities and didn't see anything like that matched my resume. And by the end of December, I was not desperate because I still have almost 6 months provision. They started giving me that stipend last month, and I had my job with the other church until October. So I wasn't desperate, but still I wanted to find a job. Um, I found out that the company where I buy my stuff for my fish tanks, because one of my hobbies is um, aquascaping, saltwater and freshwater aquariums. I've done that all my life. I don't know if you get to see, but I have an aquarium back here. Um, was hiring for a position they call service technician. Is doing maintenance to aquariums in rich people's houses, and I applied. They gave me the job. Been doing that for a month now. It's a 40-hour job, full time job, basically.
Mm,
Good thing is that I was able to get it 4 days a week, so it's 10-hour shifts, which is crazy. But I'd rather do that, like 4 10-hour shifts, and I still have 3 days, three free
great.
days for ministry.
Yeah.
For what for I have my podcast. I wrote a book last year. It's
No
called
way.
Simple Discipleship. Um, I have the church project that we have right now. We call it Proyecto Iglesia in Español. It's a church project inspired by a church in Houston in the Woodlands that their name is
Mm-hmm.
Church Project. I like their ecclesiology. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Uh, I met Jason Shepard. I had a conversation with them. They have been giving me resources. I like what they do. Sometimes it still feels too institutional for me and for what I'm looking for. But at least I appreciate the fact that they're trying to do
Mm-hmm.
get people to get involved in real ministry and not so much in producing services and everything that I've been talking about. So I thought, why not Proyecto Iglesia? It's not a name. What's the name of your church? Proyecto Iglesia. Well, that's not a name. Well, it is. At the end of the day, we don't want a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Church in Rome, or church in the house of so and so, or church in Jerusalem. At the end of the day, um, it's not about the name, and we're being very intentional in that. In social media, it's very, very, very intentional what we're trying to communicate. Uh, Trying to see what is too much, and what's that sweet spot of, we don't want to be that corporate, we don't want to be that organic either, because we understand that there is a need for certain structure and organization for it to work. um, we are raising funds as a community. I don't talk about tithing. That's yet, like, I don't believe in the tithing ethic of the what it's taught in many churches. I
Mm-hmm.
just think
Mm-hmm.
that we should be extravagantly generous as Christians, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I just say to people, hey, you want to be generous wherever you can, and wanna do that. If you want to do it with us and through us, that's fine. So we have an account, and we have some processes for that, and some protocols for transparency sake, and of course for legality sakes as well. The IRS, and we have to do that, and that's integrity, and it needs to be done that way. But most are resources. I'm not even taking money for me from that. It's just uh, sometimes meals, lunch, dinner. If there's a family in need, we'll provide for that family.
Wow.
If we
Incredible.
learn that there's somebody in need outside of our community, we already have a process in place to help those people.
Awesome.
Because I read a statistic which shocked me. Somewhere around 90% of the budget of churches in the United States go towards buildings, uh, technology, and salaries,
Oh yeah. At least
at
90%. Oh
least.
yeah.
and many, it's more because many don't even have 10% towards missions. So we want to do it inverted. We want to have 90% towards missions and people
Love it.
and ministry and everything that has to do with the work of ministry. And why not one day 10% towards um functioning, because there needs to be something. I
So
understand.
that's good.
um
Hey, real quick, I want to land the plane here because I could talk to you for like 3 hours. We'll just
yeah,
have to have you
yeah,
back on. But
and me too.
one last question I do want to hit on before we wrap up here is you talk about going through the cycle time and time and time and time and time again. What feels different this time? Do you feel like this is a different, do you feel like you've broken the cycle? And if so, how?
I mean, that's a great question, Britton. I hope so. I'm only 2 months in, and I think, I think, I think I did. I think it's different. First, because I don't longer feel the need to explain to others what I'm doing. I don't know. Like, I used to have that burden.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people around me with expectations, and I don't know if it was John Calvin or who it was, but I believe I read, or probably it was Peter Scasero in his book Emotionally Healthy Spirit. I don't remember.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm all over the place, but I think he said something around these lines: if you don't know who you are, you're gonna be trying to keep up towards others' expectations for your life, and that's gonna be violence to your soul. And I always felt like I needed to give explanations to others. Like, they expect me to be a pastor, they expect me to be in ministry, they expect me to do the big church. And somehow that was a weight in my shoulders. And now
Yeah.
I feel like it's not that I don't care, I just feel free to say, this is what I'm pursuing, and this is what I want, and this is how I think church should look like,
Amen.
and this is our DNA as a community. And if you want to be a part of this, that's perfect. If you don't, that's fine as well. And no hard feelings, and I'm not gonna take it personal. And every week people come to my house every week, and they never come back.
Hmm.
And in the past, I'm sure that would have generated some kind of identity crisis in me, because I still had a lot of things in my soul that I hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
So I think that I am a different person today. I think I've grown, I've matured, and just that puts me in a situation where at least I know I'm in a different place, that I'm not going to be doing things for the wrong reason, whether it be
Yeah.
money,
Yep.
because now I have my job, and yeah,
Yep.
it's cleaning fish tanks, and that's perfect. And many people would say you are betraying your calling or whatever. That's definitely, I know they're going to say that. I don't care. I'm
Not
happy
true. Yeah.
cleaning fish poop, man. That's what I do. I'm fine. And then uh, emotionally, I have my family with me. My wife is with me. My parents are with me. Like, my key
Mm,
people, they are with me. They understand what I'm doing and why I am doing that. And my very good friends that are with me in the project right now, they are all bought into the idea of doing a different a different church. So my expectation, as I was telling you, is I hope we are able to multiply and to
yeah.
have more homes come out of ours. And
Amen.
that's my main challenge, because I am a very attractional leader, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just who
You're
I am.
you're a
And
likable guy. Yeah,
and
totally.
yeah, and that's, it's gonna be tough. And I already told them, hey, there's gonna be a time when I'm gonna kick you out of my home.
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't want you
Yeah.
here. We're not going to be sitting here in 2 years from now. This is not for us. It's not for us to be cozy and be a good family. You're always going to be my friends, but eventually you're going to have to be doing church either in your home or someone else's home,
Yeah.
because success is not this. It's not growing this church. So
I really appreciate you sharing that because it sounds like you're addressing kind of your part, your identity, your heart, your soul, and also paying attention to the structures in place that have a tendency to have that gravitational pull, that force, as you call it, into a cycle that you don't want again. And so,
Right.
no, no, we're not going to be in this building. No, no, we're not collecting a tithe that way. Or not. I'm not taking a salary. Just I appreciate the way you've gone about it, and I'm just so grateful for your generosity and sharing your story today, and just the faithfulness and just the faithfulness of the Lord, the way that He just keeps bringing you back, just bringing you back to Himself. And I hope to be in Orlando actually within the next couple months, and so I would love to hang out in person finally when I'm in the area.
That will be amazing, and it will be great if you can come and be a Sunday with us, with our community, have a meal, be
Be
part of
so
what's
fun.
happening. That will be amazing. And I do plan, because I spoke to Pocho. I speak to him regularly. We speak regularly. I did speak to him around 3 weeks ago, and I told him, "Hey, I'm gonna finish. I want to let you know that I'm gonna finish. This has been a crazy transition, new job, new everything, but I'm gonna finish the process, because I like to finish what I start, and I need it as well. I'm learning, so uh, I appreciate all you do. I really do, Britton. Thank you.
Hey, well, we look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you face to face soon, brother.
Yes, sir, for sure.